Today we're talking about 5 must-play arcade games from the 80s that you might not have heard of, but trust me, they're totally worth your time today. These obscure titles weren't as famous as the other well-known arcade hits such as Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, but they all offered something really special and unique, and are still a hell of a lot of fun to play. So join me in this Retro Gaming Boss retrospective as we go back to the 80s to take a closer look at 5 of my favorite arcade games that you need to play in 2025. First up, let's hit the gas with Road Blasters, released by Atari in 1987. This game was a mix of car combat and racing with a heavy emphasis on shooting. Imagine a post-apocalyptic world where you're driving a car while blasting enemies, collecting power-ups, and avoiding hazards, all while speeding down a deadly highway. What makes this one different is the constant multitasking that's required to even finish a level. While trying not to crash, you're lining up the perfect shot at enemies, while at the same time trying to capture fuel orbs and even catch some power-ups that are dropped by a ship that swoops in from above. When you get into the zone here, it feels so tight as you thread the needle perfectly and move on stage after stage. Speaking of retro, I remember throwing quarters into this one as a kid at the arcade and having so much fun while blowing through my weekly allowance, chugging Capri Sun and chomping on a bunch of Jolly Rancher candies. That sugar rush perfectly complemented the sweet action and heightened the sense of accomplishment after passing another level in the game. I highly recommend it. So before our next game, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is always here for a quick retro gaming break whenever you need it. I appreciate your support, since it's the only way that YouTube will highlight my videos and help me to grow. Next up, we've got a title that really made a mark in the light gun genre, Operation Wolf, released in 1987 by Taito. While this game wasn't the first light gun shooter, what made it stand out was the light gun itself on the arcade cabinet. I mean, it looked just like a real, life-sized Uzi. It even had a side button for a grenade launcher on it. Now I know, that sounds freaking ridiculous, and it was, but in the most awesome possible way. Just imagine dropping a quarter into this bad boy and seeing that intro that seems to have come straight out of the iconic 80s movie Rambo. After getting you all psyched up, you're dropped into the action and begin mowing down hordes of enemies, popping away on full auto. Vehicles then start rolling in like APCs and helicopters, which you take down with well-placed shots from your grenade launcher. The feeling this one gives you of being on a one-man commando mission is pretty unforgettable. Operation Wolf's rapid-fire action and military-themed gameplay kept players coming back for more, and its influence on future light gun shooters can be overstated. But I've gotta say, like many other arcade games from the 80s, the difficulty on this one is really tough, and I found it to be much easier to make progress using the light gun on the arcade version compared to playing it with a gamepad today running in emulation.
You have sustained a lethal injury. Sorry, but you are finished here.
Now let's take to the skies with UN Squadron, released by Capcom in 1989. This is a side-scrolling shooter that has you piloting a jet through various missions, taking on waves of enemy planes, tanks, and some mega bosses. The inspiration of the movie Top Gun is clear, but what sets UN Squadron apart is some light RPG elements. Players can choose to pilot 3 different aircraft, each with strengths and weaknesses. For example, the F-14 Tomcat has weapons like the powerful Phoenix missile that are best suited for aerial combat, and in contrast, the mighty A-10 Warthog has ferocious ground attack capabilities. Also, during each mission you earn money based on your score to buy new and more powerful weapons and other upgrades. This adds a fun element of strategy and planning compared to the typical shoot-'em-up formula, which provides a lot of replay value. The game controls are nice and smooth with a well-balanced difficulty curve. With its beautiful graphics, fun characters, and non-stop action, UN Squadron stands out as one of my all-time favorite arcade shooters from this era. It's a perfect example of what I call a feel-good game that you can keep coming back to. So now it's your turn to try it out for yourself. If you enjoy this content, I've put a link in the description below of the playlist of all of my other videos that you might also like, so check it out and stick around for a while. And for number 4, we've got Moon Patrol, released in 1982 by IREM and distributed in North America by Williams. This was one of the first arcade games that I ever played that featured parallax scrolling, a graphics technique that gives a pretty convincing illusion of depth by moving the background layers at different speeds than the foreground. You control a moon buggy navigating through the vast expanse of a rough lunar terrain. As you're driving across the wide open environment, you'll need expert timing to avoid all of the craters, rocks, and alien attacks. Even playing it today, the game's background produces an impressive pseudo 3D depth, and that's saying a lot for a game that's over 40 years old. Its unique control system blends constant jumping and shooting and makes this one a winner. Becoming skilled at this game is much easier said than done. A couple of decades after Moon Patrol hit the arcade, the popular space RPG Mass Effect from 2007 pretty much cloned the Moon Rover with its Mako vehicle. If you've played both of these games, you'll see it immediately, which I thought was a pretty neat throwback to the original arcade game. The simple concept and brilliant gameplay of Moon Patrol make it a classic and definitely one of the underrated gems from the arcade scene from the early 80s. And last but not least, we have Heavy Barrel, a 1987 release from Data East. This is a top-down run-and-gun shooter where you play as a soldier trying to stop the forces of an evil general. The one and only reason to play this is to collect the different parts of a super secret weapon throughout each stage. When you get your hands on that final piece, a voice from the console yells out, "Heavy Barrel!" And then you get the pleasure of having a massive cannon strapped to your character that sprays out fiery plasma death to everyone and everything on screen. It's the ultimate gaming power fantasy, and kind of reminds me of that smart gun scene from the classic 80s movie Aliens that blasts a path through swarms of enemies.
Let's rock!
So, even if the rest of the game is pretty vanilla, when you hear that battle cry, "Heavy Barrel!" it's just so worth it and an absolute joy to play through. So there you have it, 5 incredible but underrated arcade games from the 80s that deserve a place in my Retro Gaming Hall of Fame. These titles pushed the boundaries of what was possible, each in their own ways, pioneering new gameplay mechanics and improved visuals that created new experiences that were ahead of their time. These games truly helped build the foundation on which many modern games draw from today. If you're looking to dig deeper into the golden age of arcade gaming, give these a try and you might discover your new favorites. But that's just what I think. I'd love to hear your comments too about any of your favorite arcade games from the 80s. And if you're new to retro gaming, I'd like to welcome you to the channel and ask you to subscribe right now to experience more of the pure joy from the retro gaming classics. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out, reminding you to keep your games old school and keep those quarters glowing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.